So today is day number 5 post lump, and I do have the video on my phone going the correct way, so that's a plus, and Lily's already been fed, so there won't be any dog eating distractions in today's video. So yesterday was the very first day that I really had non-scheduled appointments that I could really take the entire day to absorb the fact that I do have cancer, and so I created a cancer checklist. So on the top of the list, of course, is, as anybody should have anyway, is updating my will. Now, I will say, we always laughed in our family that being head of household and being single, that a lot of times I'm the only one that knows certain things in my bank accounts and life insurance and all those things. So I always tell the kids that if something ever happens to mom, that there is actually a file in the filing cabinet that is marked if mom dies. And it literally is just a very simple handwritten document where my bank accounts are for each of the businesses and personal and my will and passcodes and things like that, so that somebody, if something does happen suddenly, that somebody has some kind of a clue as to pick up the pieces behind me. So updating a will obviously is on the top. Wig appointment, I talked to Jim Morris yesterday and have an appointment at 5:30 on Monday in Jefferson City. So he's gonna see me a little earlier than my regularly scheduled appointment, which I really appreciate it and super excited to meet him. Microblading, which thanks to my daughter Amanda, brought to my attention that is temporary tattooing, so it only stays on for 1 or 2 years, and it's just light tattooing that puts your eyebrows in, and that might make things much easier as I go through hair loss, so that is on the list. I have health, so again, I consider myself very healthy, eating very clean and exercising on a regular basis, but I was exercising as a well person and eating like a well person and not necessarily eating and exercising consistently to somebody that does have cancer. So I have it on my list to do some energy work and prebiotics and just really taking a better look at some of the things that I can do to avoid sickness and keep your high energy and all of those types of things. I do have on my checklist things to do during chemo. So while I do have an office right outside of the infusion room at Missouri Cancer Associates, and last week, before I had made the promise to be a better cancer patient, I did ask if they could just wheel the chemo into my office so that I could just receive chemo while I was working. And of course, the answer was no. So I have on my checklist, what are the things that I want to do while I'm there receiving chemo? So I want to be prepared, and I want to make the most of my time while I'm in my chemo chair, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, but is on my list. I do have assembling my tribe, so I know that this is going to take a lot of different areas of support and things that I need as I go through surgeries, and I can't do the things that I used to be able to do, and so I'm gonna need to be able to rely on people who can jump in and help me out. It does help that my little baby, Luke, who is 15, is gonna be 16 very soon. So, he is gonna be able to drive and be able to help out quite a bit. I do have support groups and books just so I can start educating myself. I'm sure there's lots of really good books, from memoirs to people who are on the survivor end of things that have gone through their journey. So if anybody has any recommendations on some great books, you can just send me a private message. I'll just go ahead and put my email address, set up maybe a separate one for that, so I can keep track of everything. I do have, which is a super big one for me, a stop doing list. And so that is a really hard thing for me, and probably one of the biggest things that I had my little pity party about last week with Luke and Amanda. They got the brunt of that pity party, and it really was coming from a point of, like, I have to change my life and give up these things that I love doing. So I've worked really hard to really just create a life that I enjoy getting up every single day. There isn't anything that I don't do on a daily basis that I don't love, but I also, at the end of the day, when I get into bed, like, I'm exhausted, but I love that feeling because I know that at the end of the day, I've given 100%. So once you've been diagnosed with cancer, I totally get that I'm not going to be able to operate at 100% all the time doing all these things that are already in my regular scheduled life. Like, I have to stop doing the things that I love. I mean, stop doing list is easy if you're doing things that you don't love. But for me, it's really hard to stop doing things that I love. So it is on the list. It's probably going to be the hardest thing that is on here for me, honestly. But it has to be on here. I do have communication channels set up. I am terrible at posting things on Facebook, and I do it for my clients and for, you know, the work that I do. And so it's just never been something that I personally love doing or felt, you know, like that is going to be my posting channel to keep people updated that want to know what's going on. So I did set up yesterday a YouTube channel, and I'm calling it 365 Days of Cancer. So with the, I guess, with the commitment of getting up every single day and doing this video for 5 minutes, unscripted, unedited, that I would just continue putting those up every single day. That way, if people wanted to subscribe to the channel, that way they could get just a daily update whenever the video is released and know where I am that day. I think that's going to be the easiest thing for me. So I can already check that box. Budget, of course, that's going to come into play. So I'll be meeting with the patient benefit reps at Missouri Cancer Associates next week, and just kind of going through, you know, the WIG and the will update and just all of these things that are going to need to be budgeted for. I've already contacted my bookkeeper to let her know that I'm going to be taking out some money from my company. So, you know, I've already put some of those things into action already, so that I can be prepared for that. And then the last one I have on here is stay positive and motivation. So I haven't really decided exactly how I'm going to do that. I was thinking of just printing off a lot of my favorite motivational quotes that I have on Pinterest, and then like putting them in envelopes in my purse and in my car and around the house, so that when I'm feeling like I want to have a pity party and going down that downward spiral that any of us have the tendency to do. But one of the reasons why I'm so hesitant about going down there, and yes, I get that you want to, you know, feel things for a certain period of time, but for me, I don't want to stay in that point for too long, because I feel like it's harder to get back up. So anybody can relate to a bad diet day, then it's so much harder the next day to stay clean. If you just eat clean, it's just so much easier. So I just really want to stay positive throughout this whole entire thing, and just take what comes each day. And so I'm going to figure that little motivation thing out. So again, if anybody has any really great ideas on that, I am totally open. So I'll put my email in the little note section, I guess, of YouTube. I'm figuring this out as I go along, so that it'll be a good communication tool. So anyway, all right, thanks so much.